Thank you very much. Well, that is the routine that fooled Penn and Teller on the hit TV show Fool Us. How many of you are familiar with that TV show? Just raise your hand. Just about everybody. Good. Well, we're going to fix that. My presentation is a rather unique one. It's a Cinderella story. And by the way, don't forget about those. It's very important. Now, the Cinderella story starts, let's go back in time. Look at the timeline here. I was a professional magician full-time right up until the year 2000. Now, during that period of time, I was in the college market just doing what they call gigging. One booking after another booking after another booking. And the only highlight in my career was getting booked on the Statler Brothers show on TNN, the Nashville Network. How many of you still watch the Nashville Network? It's no longer in existence, yes. So it's only on YouTube now. But that was the only highlight. So my career was stagnant. Lean and continuous improvement did this to my career since 2014. I've had an amazing amount of successes. And one of those successes was fooling Penn and Teller, scoring more than anybody had ever done in internationals. And I got on TED Talks, and that's how you guys discovered me, was through TED. Had I not applied lean to my magic, I wouldn't be speaking here before you. Now, the magic of all of this started in July of 2014, so we're only going to talk about a 3-year timeline. That's when I captured lightning in a bottle. Now, at the time, I was working for Whirlpool in 2014. Now, Whirlpool was at the very beginning of creating a lean culture, and my team was sent off to be trained in lean principles. And I got it really quickly, because lean is theater, and problem solving is what magicians do. This entire act is nothing but one big problem solve after another, as you can probably see. Now, the YouTube channel, these are clips from the YouTube channel that I managed on Whirlpool. When you go back to your hotel room tonight, if you want to be entertained, go to the Whirlpool self-help channel, and you will see me. You'll see me showing you how to do minor repairs and maintain your appliances. But as an artist, I was dying inside. So I thought, well, as long as this lean thing was something that I was adopting early, what if I applied that to magic, something that has been laying dormant? The one thing that really got me excited about life. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it in a big way. I wanted to be able to tour the world for free. I wanted to be a force majeure in magic, lecture, and pretty much that was it. But in order to do that, you have to compete in the World Championships of Magic. That is the stage where everybody goes to. All the producers in the European nations, Asian nations, they all go there looking for acts to put on their variety shows. And so I thought, FISM Italy, that's what I'm going to go for. To do that, you have to qualify. And I didn't know that in 2014, it would be called the Korean Tsunami. These magicians were absolutely sorcerers. They were so good that when they performed, it looked like it was digital. So here I am, very unqualified, and the guy that goes before me won the whole thing right before I went on stage. No one knew what this guy was going to do. He went on stage, produced cards, they fell to the floor. He knocked his table over, and everybody's feeling sorry for this guy. But little did we know that he was hooking us. Illuminating on his table was fast forward, rewind, stop, play. He pushed the rewind button on his table. And he did his entire act in fast reverse. Cards that fell to the floor leapt up to his hand. It was insane. The Western magicians were literally standing in their seats in the auditorium screaming, "No way!" It's a true story. And then I went on. My act was 6 months old. These guys had been doing their act since they were 6. So I didn't do very well. I didn't qualify. Matter of fact, I did so poorly that I was the laughingstock of the magic community. And that's not a joke. My friends wouldn't even talk to me in magic. Only one, Gene Anderson, would talk to me. So I thought, as long as I'm in this lean, continuous improvement thing, let's do an after-action review. What went wrong? Everything. Where am I going to work? On the whole darn thing. But by doing that, I was identifying perfectly where I needed to focus. So the first thing that was on my plate was I had to create my own personal lean culture. And that's what Whirlpool was really focusing on, because nobody was adopting it. Because everybody has seen the movie Office Space. The continuous improvement people are coming in, we're going to lose our jobs. So everybody was thinking that. I wasn't thinking that at all. I was thinking, gosh, I would like to do my job easier. So I was fully adopted. But some of the principles weren't linking to me in my mind. So what I did is I took lean and continuous improvement principles and linked them to knowledge that I already had. And by that, I was able to apply these methods, and then I had full adoption very quickly. And wouldn't you would like to adopt this? Yes. That's what I was like. I was like a little puppy coming to work. What's wrong with Stu? Why is he so excited about lean and continuous improvement? I'm like, they're paying us to be better people. Why wouldn't you be excited about that? So I was taking that energy and bringing it back to the team. The next thing I had to focus on was my brain. Because to be in the World Championships of Magic, the thing that you had to do is you had to create your own tricks and effects. You had to be an inventor. You had to be an innovator. You had to be somebody that stepped outside of the box, outside of the box and said, this is the direction I think we should go. My brain wasn't wired like that. Proof was look at my old timeline. I wasn't very good. I only reached a certain level. So my brain was wrong. So I did something unusual. I created a connection and flow map of my brain. And I found that it wasn't complete. I needed more information. Ideas were only coming from very few sources. So I took a step back, looked at it again, and I created another map. A map that involved more people. I had more connections and flows, I had more information, and got more ideas. Now, I adopted this from the Koreans because I snuck into one of their conferences. They're all friends of mine now. When I go to Asia, when I go to South Korea, I'm not kidding you, this is how they identify me. That's how it works. That's brand awareness, let me tell you. So there's my brain. Now I understand how I'm going to have to wire it. Now the Koreans, the way they do it is that they bring everybody together on their team, and every single person on the team can perform each other's act. They have a college for this. And Western people, Western magicians, we're like this. This is my act. I'm not sharing it with anybody. And the number of Americans that do well since 1982 is like 0. So, okay, can't beat them, join them. I'm going to open my act as an open source creative experience. And this is my plan. First thing is those are pictures of me from theater, is to create connections to my lean tools. So these are the lean tools that I was using. Now a lot of you are black belts. These are the foundational tools. I wanted low-lying fruit, something that I could see it and fix it very quickly. So direct observation in theater is director and audience. 5Y is storytelling. Waste walk is choreography and blocking. 5S, wood shop. We have to build our props. And on poles, that's the audience booing. Process mapping is basically building your act on a wall. After action review, reviews by others and myself. And PFMEA, process failure mode effects analysis. And we're going to talk about a few of those and how I applied them. But before we get to any of that, we had to create my current state. This was the current state of my act. Now, how did I figure this out? Current state, as we know, is probably one of the most important things that you do. You have to figure out where you are and have an honest picture of it. And I couldn't figure out what was my current state. I couldn't figure out, how am I going to represent this? So I did something radical. I pushed play on, I had a video, and I pushed play and I pushed pause with my eyes closed randomly. And these are some of the snapshots that I got. I have no idea what's happening in the middle photo. It's pretty embarrassing. But one thing I did change is that I thought that I would be a better magician if I changed to a purple suit. That's the only thing that was different. So the act was not very easy to identify what was going on through pictures. And I thought, okay, why don't I get other magicians, get their videos, and other performers from other fields, push play, and then hit pause with my eyes closed and see what happens. And son of a gun if I didn't find out that every single time I pushed play, it was like an 8x10 or a poster. There was energy in their moments that I was capturing. So that was going to be what I was going for. If I could push pause at any given moment in my act, I should be able to have people understand what's happening. So I picked two guys as my North Star, Lance Burton and Veronin. Lance Burton is a very classic magician. Veronin, he's from Yugoslavia. I randomly picked these guys, and for 3 years, I watched their videos over and over and over to see how they did their decision making, thinking that maybe through osmosis, their talent would come to me. There's a story and a connection point with these two guys that'll blow your mind. So then we had to get to director. Now, we've all heard about lone wolf. Lone wolf doesn't work. When you solve a problem, especially as a magician, if you don't get your process partners involved, like your audience, and all you do is rehearse, you can go on stage and flop, like I did. Or you can get a director and people who have talents that are better than yours in different parts of the industry. And that's what I did. This is my team. And I'm going to focus on one of them, Tobin Ost. Tobin Ost is the go-to guy on Broadway right now. He is a Tony-nominated production designer for doing Newsies. And right now he's working with Steven Spielberg on some secret project he can't talk to me about. This guy I needed on my team. So I realized that he's from my hometown of Adrian, Michigan, a little place right here, 20,000 people. And he went off to Harvard, and then we went to Broadway. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to text him I'm going to message him on Facebook and say, I just said, hey, Tobin, here's a video of my act, and I want to be in the World Championships of Magic in Busan, South Korea in 2018. Would you like to help? 10 minutes later, he gives me his phone number and says, well, I want you to call me right away. So I call him, of course. And this is a true story. I said, all I want are just some tips and ideas, 5 minutes of your time. And he said, oh, no, I want to help you. And if I can swing it, I want to go to Busan, South Korea with you. I can't afford that, Tobin. You're a Tony-nominated guy. And he goes, no, I want to tell you a story. He said, back when I was in the 5th grade, you came as a performer to Lincoln Elementary School. You brought me up on stage to do the cut and restored rope trick. You are responsible for introducing me to theater. Isn't that weird? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for a random idea that just paid off. But it blew me away. And so he started drilling into my act and creating a lot of waste. A lot of waste. And I thought, waste? Hold on a second, Tim Wood. Those are the 7 wastes. I bet you there's 7 wastes that I should be looking for in theater in my act. And sure enough, there are. Transportation. How do I move my props around the stage? Inventory, the number of tricks and effects. Motion, blocking. How am I moving about the stage physically? Waiting. How long is it taking for you guys to wait for me to do a trick? Overprocessing is repeating tricks. Overproduction is complicated plots. And defects, basically editing the story. Now I was set. I had my team. I understood how my brain worked. I'm wired. I'm ready to go. And then we get to 5Y. And Tobin asked me a lot of whys. And the first question was, why are you wearing a purple suit? And I said, it looked nice in the display. And he said, no, that's not how you pick a costume. He said, look, your act is, at the time, the act was supposed to be in a curiosity shop. And he said, nah, you see, if you're going to do that right, you have to have a character that helps establish time, and then you have to have place. Where is this taking place? For the audience to connect with you. Okay. Well, he said, well, what if it was a brown suit? Oh, now I'm not a magician, right? Yeah, now you kind of have the rules of your universe. You are not a magician. Everything is happening to you. So I bought myself a brown suit, purple suit, $450, brown suit, Goodwill, $7.50. Waste. Then he said, let's take a look at your mirror. Now at the time, the mirror, see, I'd already changed my costume, and the mirror, oh, God, the mirror. He said, why do you have that cloth on the mirror? I said, well, it looks old. He said, it looks like a carpet. He said, why would anybody put a carpet over their mirror? And I said, well, I don't know. And he said, what if it was a drop cloth? Oh, if it was a drop cloth, he said, maybe it might be in an attic. Maybe it's haunted. And as soon as he said haunted, this popped in my head. Abbott and Costello and the Three Stooges in a haunted house. Not too scary, a little bit of comedy, but the whole thing laid out in front of me. Because we've all come back from school at 4 o'clock, and we used to watch Abbott and Costello. So I had a vision in my mind. And as that vision grew, I took snapshots of my act, took the color out of them, and by golly, I was starting to look like the movies. And the play was starting to form. Now we're going to do a PFMEA on a very, very horrible. This is the event that totally landed me. Basically face planting in front of everybody. This is called the dancing cane. Now the dancing cane is the one trick in my act that broke during the world qualifier. So I said, I don't want to ever have that happen again. So I figured, why don't I see if I can do a PFMEA to my act? So 1 is going to be low risk. 5 is high risk. I don't have a lot of data. I don't have spreadsheets about my act. So I just let's just keep it simple. So if the trick fails, does it ruin the act? Oh yeah. I felt that very personally. What is the failure rate of the trick? 5. Where does the trick land? If it lands at the beginning of the show, it's a 5. At the end of the show, it's a 5. Those are the high-risk moments because it's first impression, last impression. Well, it landed in the middle, so I gave it a 3. Boom, 13 out of 15, gone. It's my favorite trick in the world. Gone. Feedback. I made my own Dilbert online. It's kind of fun. Feedback is something that is really hard for us to do. And I even experienced that at work, at Whirlpool, because we would always ask the wrong question. And the question that I was always asking about my magic act was, did you like it? Yeah, it was great. The Purple Act was getting standing ovations from my hometown. Not good enough. Not good enough. But I was getting positive feedback. Go on, Stu, you're great. You're fantastic. No, they were just being nice. So I had to change the question. So I had right next door to me, who also worked at Whirlpool, was Dave. We're just going to call him Dave the engineer. So he came over to my house, and I presented to him one of the new tricks that I was going to put in my act. And he goes, yeah, it's pretty good. And I'm like, yeah, but what else? And he goes, it's all right. Yeah. I wasn't getting anything out of him. And just because of that conversation, I just said, well, what's bothering you? And as soon as he said that, I got 3 pages of notes. Same thing with Dilbert. What bothered you about Stu's act? I'll give you a 20-page report. And the reason why that question is so magical is that, because it took me a while to figure out, why am I getting better response? It's because now I'm not asking you if you like me as a performer. You are not going to accuse me of being bad, because what I'm asking about is what bothered you. What bothers you is what's the communication that's happening as it leaves my body and is in this area between you and me, and it lands in your brain. That's what we're talking about. It's nothing personal. And because of that minor question change, I got tons of notes from everybody. Even my hometown people were suddenly going, well, if you put it that way, here's some notes. And my act got better. Now, as my act started getting better, I got a call from the Magic Castle in Hollywood, California. Now, the Magic Castle is what we call Mecca for magicians. Now, when I first got started in magic, I tried to get in the Magic Castle to perform there. And it wasn't until 2016 that I got hired in. Now, the cool part is that as I was progressing, strange things were afoot. I was starting to get, what do you call, kismet? Things were happening as if like the universe was saying, go, Stu, it's great. So who was right next door to me in the little theater right next to the main theater? I was performing in the main theater, and he was in the smaller theater, and that's Sean Farquhar. Sean Farquhar was on the hit TV show Fool Us, which all of you are now going to watch online, and he fooled them twice. He was also in the World Championships of Magic in the close-up division and won it twice. This guy is somebody I need to talk to. He needs to be on my team. So I told him what I was trying to do, and sure enough, he gave me some advice, and the next thing that happened was a miracle. Fool Us called. But they called at a horrific time because my act was so young and it was just in its infancy. It wasn't quite there yet, but they seemed to like it. The problem is the act that they saw was when the mirror was on the vanity. As I was continually improving, Dave, the engineer, came over to my house, and I had just performed in my living room. I brought their entire family over. It was for Christmas, and everybody went back home, and then Dave came over, gave me the review, and he said, I want to tell you something. And I go, well, what? And he said, my wife thinks your mirror act is stupid. Now, he was okay with telling me it was stupid because we already had this thing. It's okay. You can tell me whatever you want. I just want to improve. And I'm like, stupid? I said, Penn and Teller just called. I don't want to go on stage and look stupid. And he said, I said, what was the problem? And he said, when you're multiplying things in the mirror, she said, you're just picking everything up off of the table. Oh, that's not what's going on at all. Really, that's not what's going on at all. And so I got this crazy idea. I said, well, what if I made it a standalone mirror? Like it was off the table. And he said, if you did that, it would blow her away. So, now this is 30 days prior to me being on Fool Us. And this is what my mirror looked like. It hadn't been in front of anybody. Nobody had seen it yet. I have 30 days. It's not even painted. So I did it for his wife, unpainted, and she's like, wow, how did you do that? And I go, yes, we're on to something. But I still didn't know if it was going to fool Penn and Teller, the hit TV show. Think of it, as a magician, you're trying to fool two of the most famous magicians on the planet. Between the two of them, there's like 90 years of magic knowledge. So I had to devise a plan, a continuous improvement plan. And it was radical. 100 improvements in 30 days, because that's all I had. And the way I worked it was 1 improvement equals 1% change. So at the end of 30 days, I could officially say my act is 100% better than what it was 30 days ago. So I worked at it and worked at it. 2 weeks prior to me being on the show, they started telling me all the legal stuff. You know, they thought that my book was bought off the shelf, and I'm like, no, these pages are like 300 years old. I got them off the internet, and are those candles real? I said, no, they're not real. So we were going through all this, and they said, and I was really proud of myself. I said, yeah, and I even improved my act. And he said, what? What did you do? And I said, well, the mirror is now a standalone mirror. And he said, oh, you're off the show. I got 2 weeks to go, and I put all this effort into it. And I said, what can we do to change this? And he said, the producer said, well, Stu, you're going to have to audition all over again. We won't let your slot go, but we'll have to have you audition again. So I filmed my act in my living room, and they gave me the green light a week later. So now I still have a week to go. And I'm filming and filming and filming. This is me filming and filming and filming. These are stills from YouTube, and you can't see them because they're all on private. They were just for my team and I. And I filmed my act from every conceivable angle to make sure that no camera was going to catch anything. Nobody in the audience was going to catch anything. And I improved, and I improved, and I improved, and sure enough, this is the moment that Allison Hannigan, when I said, oh yeah, I videotaped my act 100 times in 30 days and improved it 100%. And that was her reaction. Huh? You did what? And that was me when they said, you fooled us. Now, the reason why I put this picture in there is because the very first people that ever saw the act with the mirror the way it was Penn and Teller. First time. And I was so overjoyed. That's just, we have that little kid that's inside of us. Well, there he is. And there he is again. That's right when Teller was about to shake my hand. And the next thing that you got to do is you got to go to Las Vegas. Here's a little anecdote. Now, backstage after I had won, I'm in the hallway, and Teller walks up to me, and he just goes like, no, Teller doesn't speak. But he walks up to me and he goes, and I said, do you want to know how it's done? And he goes, yes! So, let's go over here. So we're in the hallway, and I showed him how it worked, and he backed away and he said, I'm not at all embarrassed by this fool. Now, Penn, he was down at the end of the hallway, and he was going to his dressing room, and he was going to just chill out for a while. And he said, Penn, you got to get over here. And Penn was like, nah, that's all right. That's cool. He goes, no, Penn, you have to see this. Was it a good fool? Yes, it was a good fool. You got to see this. That's all right. Penn, get over here. Honestly, that's exactly what it was. So Penn comes over. He's like 6'3". No, 7'3". So his arm is like this, up above my mirror. And I'm like, oh, Mr. Teller, Mr. Penn, here's how it works. And he screamed in the hallway, that's a righteous fool. So now on my poster it says, Penn says it's a righteous fool. And that was my experience on the TV show Fool Us. But then you get to go to Las Vegas and work with Penn and Teller. So I'm in the monkey room. That's their green room. And there's monkeys everywhere. It's really weird. I mean, not monkeys in cages, but I mean, like, monkeys that are little, whatever. So I'm in there, and behind me, I didn't know, was Teller. And I turn around, I'm like, oh, geez. And he goes, hello. And he said, I have been waiting for you to come and work with us for 6 months. And I said, oh, come on, you're just saying that. And he said, no, you don't realize this. You're our favorite act. And I'm like, really? And he said, yeah. It's because you fooled us with something that wasn't just card tricks. You fooled us with an illusion. And that's really hard to do. So our audience is going to love you. And Teller and I are now pen pals. So that was a really cool thing. All right, so let's go back to my current state. Remember I said I was pushing pause, and let's see what it would look like if I push pause with my new act. That's the old act. Push and pause, new act. Way different. There's energy in it. There's something happening that's interesting. There's joy. There's confusion. There's wonder. There's props that look interesting. There's a costume that looks interesting. That's the power of continually improving my act. And my act has now got this reputation among magicians as, what's he doing now? When I get booked on these magic conventions, they're always excited because Stu's always got something new that he's cooking up. I'm going to give you a little anecdote about this hat. This hat has a great story. Want to hear it? Okay. Now, one of the things that we're supposed to do is we're always supposed to ask for help when something is going wrong. Pulling the andon cord, talking to our managers. Well, I needed help because my hat was just giving me fits, because I knew I needed a black top hat for my act. And on the TV show Penn and Teller Fool Us, you'll notice that it was a gray hat. And it was so that you could see the hat on stage against a black backdrop. So Tobin said, a friend of mine is working on a musical, and what's the big famous one right now that's with Hamilton, right? Yeah. Well, she's working on Hamilton, and she's the costumer. You might want to give her a call. Maybe she can help you out with the hat. Okay. Heather, this is Stuart MacDonald. And Heather's also from my hometown. Yeah, right? 20,000 people, little town. In other words, everybody wants to get out of Adrian. That's the thing. So I'm talking to her, and I told her what my problem was, and she said, yeah, I hate your hat. I saw it in your show. And I go, what? Oh, yeah, I went to one of your shows, and I didn't tell you. And I go, oh, thanks. What can we do to fix this? She said, well, have you ever thought about buying a Victorian hat, because that'll make it look like the act is a lot like this table that you find in this room is a lot older. And I go, yeah, we can find a Victorian hat, but it doesn't show up well against a black background. And she said, well, what about beaver? Have you thought about beaver? That's what it was, beaver or silk. Or what about pony? I said, pony? What are you talking about, pony? She said, yeah, I got some pony laying around. All right. Well, she said, send me a Victorian hat. I have some remnant left over from Hamilton's coat that's made of pony. This is part of Hamilton's coat from the musical. Oh, another random fact. So anyway, yeah. And again, when I look back, if I only reached to people that were within my level, and you can think about it within your own teams, is that you got to bring people in who are more qualified, who have a lot more experience solving problems or knowledge in the area that you're at, and you don't have to be afraid to ask, because you'd be surprised what you can get. Now let's go back to Lance Burton and Veronin. 3 years prior to me being in the contest, I decided that in 2014, these guys were going to be my future state. Well, I was in the contest. Now remember, think of this. 2014, face planted on stage, laughingstock. 3 years later, that timeline we're talking about, 3 years later, I won first place stage for the International Brotherhood of Magicians, first place stage for the Society of American Magicians. I won the Originality Award. I won the Silver Award of Merit, which is, I don't think it's ever been given out in the last 20 years. And then I got the People's Choice Award. That has never happened in the 100 years that they've been doing that. All because I decided to use these principles. And these two guys were in the audience and watched me get my award. Just random that they happened to be there. And of course, I'm very, very happy and excited. So now, what happens? I win the qualifiers. Now I'm going in as a #1 American in 2018 to Busan, South Korea, to go up against the Rewind guy and all those sorcerers. And the night before my competition, this is Lance Burton. He's touring with a show called Lance Burton and Friends. And this is a guy who had 3 TV specials in the 90s. And he's like one of my heroes. And he was following me. And he texted me and he goes, "Go get him, Stu." And that was backstage at one of his shows. And that just pumped me up. So then I go out there, and here I am at the World Championships of Magic, day 1. I'm on the following day, the first guy that goes up there on stage. He is from Korea. He walks out on stage, drinks some wine, and then this smoke just comes out of his mouth, and a bird just appears on his hands. Then he goes like this, and another bird appears. The audience is going crazy. Then he takes a fireball and levitates it in front of him. Goes like this, and it circles all the way around him. He catches it, turns into a bird. The magicians sitting next to me are crying. This is so beautiful. I'm on tomorrow, Eric. I'm on tomorrow. Then he takes the birds and he puts them in a cage. He has white gloves on during his entire act. He goes like this. The white glove turns to red. He goes like this. The other glove turns to red. Then he goes like this. And all the birds slowly turn red. I said, it's time to leave. He gets a standing ovation, and that's the second guy. You want to know how tough it is? He got 5th. He got 5th. This is what I got, 8th place. 50% of the 50% of it were South Koreans. And that's me at the very end of my act. But I was the highest scoring magician from the United States since 1982. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So I've qualified again, and in 2021, I'm going to go for the whole thing. Because yeah. And you all can come along. It's going to be in Quebec, so anyway. But because of this, even though I didn't win, my friends they were saying, "Oh, Stu, it's so sad you didn't win." I go, "Are you kidding me? Look at the company I'm in. The guy with fifth place." They just didn't understand. I said, "Well, I got a world tour out of it, and so I've been everywhere." I'll show you some of the places in a little bit, but now we're at the point where I got to show you this trick. Now, you all have your cards? Okay, this is pretty cool. You get to keep these cards, and you get to do this. I recommend you doing this trick for training at work, too. Now, standard work means predictable outcomes, predictable results, right? Okay. That's like magic. I have made a prediction in the future. But first, we have to find out, let's just do it as where are we at with this standard work if we just randomly move around 4 times. So everybody, just put your finger on any square you want. This will be our current state. Okay, I want you to move to any other square that you want. That's move number 1. Move number 2, move to another square. Move number 3, move to another square. Move number 4, move to another square. Keep your finger on that square. Now we're going to take some data. If you landed on direct observation, raise your hand. Put your hands down. After action review, hands up, hands down, okay. Current and future state, hands up, hands down. 7 wastes, hands up, hands down. Lean roadmap, hands up, hands down. Kaizen event, hands up, hands down. 5 whys, hands up. Ooh, more, hands down. PFMEA, hands up, hands down. Wow. All right, the results are mixed, and that's just 50% of this little chart here. Now we're going to do a QRG, and we're going to do it a specific way. So put your finger on any blue square. There are 8 blue squares, all different lean principles. I have no idea where your fingers are right now. 8 different possibilities. I want you to move left or right to the nearest yellow square. Left or right to the nearest yellow square. Now I want you to move up or down to the nearest blue square. Up or down to the nearest blue square. Now diagonally, in either direction, to the nearest yellow square. Okay. And now you're going to move down or to the right to the nearest blue square. Down or to the right to the nearest blue square. Now I've made a prediction. How many of you landed there on continuous improvement? It's just like magic. Thank you. Now, if you go to my website, I have all the instructions. It's pretty cool. So enjoy yourselves. But anyway, these are the places that I've been ever since the World Championships. I've been to England, Greece, Spain, Sweden, China. I got out of China right before all that happened, so I'm fine. The Caribbean and Colombia, all just for doing magic. And this is me in Italy in the Royal Palace of Turin. And we did 6 shows in this palace. And it was hosted by some big TV star, Rodolfo, whatever. And I didn't know who he was, but everybody knew who he was. And so when I came back, I was still working for Whirlpool, and I and I had to turn down multiple TV shows. I had to turn down the NBC of Indonesia was doing a celebration of their station for the last 50-year celebration, and they wanted me to be their star. I had to say no. I'm on tour. I'm working at Whirlpool. Same thing in Italy. They wanted me be on their America's kind of Got Talent. Italy's Got Talent. So they wanted me to be on their New Year's special. And I said, I'm on tour. Working at Whirlpool. So I had to say no to a lot. The Illusionists gave me a call. They've been on Broadway, and they've been on tour. I said no to them 3 times. Well, in October, my manager came up to me and he said, it's magic or Whirlpool. So I basically leaned myself out of a job. I now do magic full time, and I have no regrets. And I also speak at events like this too, and share my story of lean and continuous improvement. So what I want to leave you with is this idea, this thought. Now, we all know that there's an adoption curve. Early adopters, late adopters, and then we all want to get in the middle. But wouldn't it be cool if you had so many people packed at the beginning? Remember that puppy? You want everybody to be that excited about lean. So my idea to give you is this. When you're training people, ask them what their hobbies are. Ask them, are you in a band? Do you garden? Do you weave? What do you do? Are you a triathlete? And then ask them to take these lean principles that you're teaching them and to apply it to knowledge that they already have. Improve on that, and then share that knowledge that they've gained with the team. So if they're excited about doing lean and continuous improvement outside of work, that will easily translate in work. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I was so excited and so proud of it. So there you go. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.